the 15th and 16th centuries, Florence was the beating heart of the Italian Renaissance. So even if you're not an art lover like myself, there are certain works of art that you have to see. Today we're going to be showing you how to combine Florentine art with Florentine food. I'll be taking charge of the art, and Ottavia is going to be taking charge of the food. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. This is the famous Rivoire here in Florence.
Wow. Well, what a way to combine art and food. These must be copies of some of the most iconic works of art from the history of Western art. I couldn't think of a better way to start this art and food day.
This is a famous place to stop, take a load off, rest your feet, have a coffee, or even have a drink. You know, this place is famous as the House of Negroni.
Ooh, are we getting to it? Just looking outside, we're right by Piazza della Signoria, literally on the edge of it, which is one of the most important piazzas in Florence. Wow, a feast. Look at how much apricot jam we've got oozing out of this cornetto. It's such an amazing combination. Well, Florence is known for being the heart of the Renaissance. So the Renaissance was this political and cultural rebirth that happened after the Middle Ages. People were rediscovering these ancient texts from the past, and all those values and ideas were coming to the fore once again. So we have this renewed interest in human anatomy, in human ingenuity, in human sort of agency, and religion kind of takes one step back. And when it comes to actual art, you're going to see a lot of perfect musculature, a lot of idealized bodies. So while having breakfast, we had the absolute perfect vantage point of what is probably the most iconic work of art here in Florence. In fact, Florence would not be Florence without Michelangelo's David.
It is stunning.
This is the ultimate underdog story, because he defeats this huge giant just by using two single minimal weapons and mostly his mind. So the original David sculpture is housed inside La Galleria dell'Accademia, which I highly recommend. He started carving it when he was just 26 years old. It took him 4 years, but the end result was incredible. This is where the original stood. Actually, until the 19th century, about 1870s, it was in this piazza. It was originally destined to be on the top of the Duomo. It was going to be part of a series of sculptures lining the roof. And Michelangelo was actually the very first artist to show David before going into battle and not after. Because usually artists would depict David with the decapitated head of Goliath standing triumphant, but this is the moment before. So we got a huge moment of anticipation. But if you look closely at his features, you'll notice these slight imperfections. You know, it's not completely symmetrical when it comes to his face. And that means
that how humans are.
Exactly. Yeah. So he became an accessible symbol to every member of the Florentine Republic. People could relate to this young shepherd who was able to defeat this huge enemy. It became a metaphor for Florence itself.
See?
Well, this is one of my favorite things to visit here in Florence. It's called La Loggia dei Lanzi, and it's basically an open-air sculpture gallery. And that's one of my favorites, that one up there. It's by Benvenuto Cellini. This is the hero Perseus, who has just decapitated the Gorgon Medusa, who lies dismantled sort of beneath his feet.
I kind of love Medusa, actually.
I love it. You know something really cool about this work of art? It houses a secret, possible self-portrait of the artist himself. Look at the back of Perseus's helmet. What do you see?
It looks like a face.
Yeah, apparently it could be a self-portrait of Cellini himself.
Oh,
so he's making his mark on this sculpture. And you can see Perseus's winged sandals as well, so he's got the gods on his side. I'll show you one more thing, and then we're gonna get some more food. So this sculpture, I love it because there's no single viewing point. It forces you to encircle it, right? It looks good from over here, but then it also looks great from over here, and from over here.
Yeah, it's almost like a twist.
So he was experimenting with this sort of figura serpentina. So you've got these three interlocking bodies.
Love it.
And it creates this wonderful rhythm running throughout the sculpture.
I see a snake theme going on up here.
Are you feeling hungry?
I'm really hungry.
All right, let's go.
Let's go eat something.
Let's go.
Waiting till you see what I have in store for you for food.
Oh my God, so excited. Is that where we're going?
Yeah, we're going to this little cart right here.
Oh, yeah, because I want to try all the good stuff.
Okay, we're gonna have a sandwich. So we're gonna try something that's real typical Florentine. It's actually a sandwich, and inside the sandwich is something we call lampredotto.
Lampredotto. Oh, I've heard of this, so this is the moment, but I don't know what it is. What's on the inside?
Well, first of all, this is very, very typical Florentine. You know what? I'm not gonna tell you what's inside yet.
Whoa, is that it?
There it is right there.
Ottavia, what on earth are we gonna be eating?
If you're a foodie, you're really gonna love this sandwich. It's particular, it's interesting, it's a little different. It's been slow cooked for a very long time, like almost like a stew until it becomes super tender, almost like a roast beef. See how nice and thinly shaved it is?
Yeah, it smells divine.
Oh yeah.
I can't sort of pinpoint what it might be.
So good, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Now that you've had your first bite already, do you want to know what it actually is?
Okay, go on, tell me.
All right, so the lampredotto is actually the fourth and final stomach of the cow. I mean, did you like it though?
It's delicious.
Okay, great. I mean, would you have tried it if I told you that first?
Probably not, so I appreciate your strategy. So here in Piazza del Duomo, there are 4 main things that you need to see. Number 1, the cathedral itself, designed by Arnolfo di Cambio with this gorgeous polychrome marble paneling. It really does take your breath away, doesn't it?
It's stunning, and recently was restored just a few years back. See how vibrant the colors are?
Well, you can tell it really does jump out at you. Number 2, the tower by Giotto di Bondone, and it's actually the largest tower in the city of Florence.
Yes, it's incredible.
Number 3, the one and only dome by Filippo Brunelleschi, an amazing piece of Renaissance engineering and architecture. It's a shell within a shell, a self-supporting dome. It's actually the largest masonry dome of all time. And finally, number 4, Lorenzo Ghiberti's Gates of Paradise. These are the 10 gilded bronze panels executed by Lorenzo Ghiberti to decorate the door of the Florence baptistry. Michelangelo actually loved these so much that he called them the Gates of Paradise, and that nickname actually stuck, so that's how they're often referred to. Nothing like a spritz on a warm summer's day. So after that lampredotto, this spritz and Negroni is definitely needed.
The origins of it are kind of unknown, but a lot of Florentines will claim it as their own.
And what's the garnish?
Yeah, the garnish in there, that's an orange.
Speaking of oranges, there's a really famous painting that you have to see, which is housed inside the Uffizi Gallery. It's Sandro Botticelli's Primavera.
Primavera, which means springtime.
Yeah, so it's all these mythological figures that are standing in this beautiful orange grove garden.
Oh my God.
Definitely one that you've got to keep on your list.
Yes.
In fact, a visit to the Uffizi is mandatory. It's full of all the who's who's of the Italian Renaissance and other famous art historical periods.
Yes.
You've got Da Vinci, his Annunciation, you've got Medusas by Caravaggio, you've got Artemisia Gentileschi, one of my favorites. You've got Piero della Francesca. I mean, it goes on and on.
It's eye candy for an art lover.
Absolutely. And even if you're not an art lover, you have a great time, I promise. We were just coming here for a schiacciata, but I think we might have to change our plans. Well, looking at all that art certainly did make me hungry. So what are we having for lunch?
Okay, we're doing what we call schiacciata. This is a Florentine kind of bread. It's made with fingertips. So when you look at the top of the bread, you can actually see the dimples.
Oh, it looks good. Ottavia, we still got a lot of art to do. What are you doing? You need to concentrate.
I can't say no to the Sangiovese.
Buon appetito.
Buon appetito.
Did you hear the crunch? Typically, Tuscan bread doesn't have any salt.
No, this is why we love schiacciata so much, because it has usually a little bit of olive oil and salt brushed on top.
Ah, I see. It's kind of like a pizza, I suppose, but everything's sort of stuffed on the inside. Here in Florence, there are many churches that you have to visit, including Santa Croce, Santa Maria del Fiore, and my favorite, La Basilica di Santa Maria Novella. And why is it my favorite, you ask?
I don't know, why is it your favorite?
Because it houses 2 of the most significant works of art from the history of Western art. Number 1,
Okay.
Giotto's painted crucifix.
Let me write this down.
And number 2, Masaccio's Holy Trinity. Masaccio was the very first artist to incorporate the Brunelleschi's teachings on linear perspective. That's not all though, because inside the museum of La Basilica di Santa Maria Novella, they house an extraordinary Last Supper painting. This one is by a female artist. We love women empowerment. Her name was Plautilla Nelli. She was the first woman to have ever painted a Last Supper painting. And what I love about it is that it shows on the table, so in front of Jesus Christ and all his disciples, classic Tuscan tastings on the food. So you've got this whole little succulent pig, you've got the Tuscan wine, you've got the Tuscan bread.
My stomach starting to growl again.
All right, all right.
I think it's time.
Well, that's why I brought you here, because it's a great way to lead into our last supper.
Here we are again, it's time for dinner, and we're gonna start with a cute little fresh, cool, crisp.
What's on the menu for dinner?
We're gonna go in for the little tiny crostinis. And on top, we're gonna have chicken liver pate.
I like it. And then for main?
We've eaten so much today that we probably won't have room for a main. I think I'm gonna keep it a secret.
You know what, that's what Tuscany is all about, so I'm all for it. We gotta try the local specialties.
This is the fegato, super classic Tuscan.
It looks like a pate.
Yeah, it is. It's a chicken liver. This is actually called trippa alla fiorentina. So this is basically Florentine tripe.
Is that cheese on top of it?
Yeah, it looks like some melted cheese on top. It's cooked for a super, super long time and then finished in this beautiful tomato ragu. Not for the faint of heart though, I think. We needed to take a load off for just a second and enjoy this Florentine specialty. It's actually called Vinsanto and Cantucci. So the Vinsanto, it's basically a dessert wine made here exclusively in Tuscany. And here's the cute part about it. They start the pressing process on Valentine's Day. And we can talk about how in love we are with art and food. What do we call this normally?
A biscotto.
Okay, so biscotto in Italian, as we know, it just means cookie. This particular kind of cookie is actually called cantucci. All you do is dunk it right into your Vinsanto, get it nice and soft. Oh my God.
All right, it's time for some dessert and some Dante.
Yes,
Do you know about
yes.
Dante?
Yeah, of course, but
Okay.
tell me more about him because I don't know everything.
Well,
So
that's him over there, and he was famous because he wrote an epic 3-part poem called The Divine Comedy. What are we having for dessert?
this is a very traditional Florentine dessert, zucchotto, meaning like cooked sugar. This is a really tricky thing to find here in Florence, so I had to ask one of my friends to get it from this lady who makes it special near his house.
Well, I can't wait. Let's dive in. And what better location to enjoy a traditional Florentine dessert than in front of the house of one of the most famous poets of all time?
Yeah,
who was
sounds-
Florentine. Wow, look at that.
Oh my gosh, it
Wow.
looks like chocolate and chocolate chips and pan di Spagna, they call that. There's some hazelnuts in there, gelato.
So have you read The Divine Comedy? Have you heard about it? So he lived here. He met his one true love, Beatrice on the Ponte Vecchio, and they never actually
Romantic.
spoke. But he had this. He was just so in love with her, and she actually ended up dying when she was relatively young. And this
gosh.
poem is actually, in a way, dedicated to her because she's his sort of guide through paradise. So it's super romantic. Well, I can't think of a better way to end our day exploring art and food here in Florence. Did you learn so much?
I learned so much.
And you know what? My favorite thing from today, surprisingly, was actually the lampredotto.
My favorite thing, actually, the tripe.
Thank you so much for watching today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. If you haven't seen any of our other Best of Rome / Best of Florence episodes, what are you still doing here? You got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, you got a lot of eating to do too.
From all of us here at the Roman Food Tour, arrivederci.
Arrivederci.